What's happening, everybody? The college football playoff goes with the 5+7 model for the 12-team playoff. What does it mean for the SEC? We'll explain. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's happening, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. Today's episode brought to you by GameTime. Download the GameTime app, create an account, use our code LOCKEDON for $20 off your first purchase. I'm Chris Gordy. This is Locked On SEC. Thank you for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers coming back and checking us out every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. All right, we got plenty to discuss. And basically, this whole first segment, we're going to spend talking about the new college football ruling because, look, it's a little complicated, and we'll tell you why you should care. I heard somebody say, why do I even care? I mean, the SEC is just going to get a bunch of teams in. Yes and no. Let's discuss what happened yesterday with the college football playoffs. So they got together. They've been meeting in Dallas, and the College Football Playoff Selection Committee decided that the 12-team format for this year, it's confirmed. And there's going to be a new model. It was going to be a 6+6, but the Pac-12 being no more changes things, so they will utilize a 5+7 selection process. What does that mean? Well, in this model, the 5 highest-ranked conference champions will receive automatic bids, and the 4 highest-ranked conference champions will receive the first 4 seeds and first-round buys. The number 5 highest-ranked conference champion kind of gets left out in the dark. You got to go play an extra game. But nonetheless, the rest of that field. So we got the 5 highest ranked conference champions. You with me here? We got like SEC champ, ACC champ, however it plays out. Then the rest of the field is going to come from the next 7 highest ranked teams. Teams will be seeded 5 through 7, and they will face off in first round games at home stadiums of the higher ranked team in the matchup. Now, The Athletic is reporting that this format is currently only agreed upon through the end of the current contract. That contract runs through the end of 2025. So everything 2026 and beyond is still up for debate, and this whole thing could change. In fact, The Athletic is reporting that the SEC is expected to push for no automatic berths. I'm with you, Greg Sankey, included in the selection process for 2026 and beyond. It's unclear what the Big Ten wants. There's been a talk that the Big Ten wants to reconsider bracket sizes and look at a 16-team playoff. I saw somebody tweet, going from 4 to 12 is a little extreme. Could we have just gone from 4 to 6? Could we have tried 6? Because the whole stink last year was, yeah, okay, we got the 4, but what about 5 and 6? They get left out. Nonetheless, it'll be fun. It'll be exciting to have 12 teams in the playoff. But CFP committee will meet in Dallas today to discuss some future issues. The Athletic reports ESPN executives are growing impatient over a potential agreement on the media rights for the playoff that has not been signed off yet. Remember, we told you a couple weeks ago this whole thing was agreed upon. Oh, ESPN, they got the playoff for the foreseeable future. Yeah, but the commissioners and presidents in charge of the CFP still haven't signed off on it. So, to recap here, the college football playoff revised the qualifying criteria for the 12-team playoff to include the 5 highest-ranked conference champions plus the next 7 highest-ranked teams. And that's determined, of course, by the selection committee. So let's take a look at how this thing played out last year. For those of you watching on YouTube, if you're listening on the podcast, I'll walk you through this. So the final college football rankings, after we played conference championship weekend, we had Michigan 1, Washington 2, Texas 3, Alabama 4, Florida State 5. So Michigan would have been the highest-ranked Big Ten champ. Washington at the time was the highest-ranked Pac-12 champ. Texas would have been the highest-ranked Big 12 champ. Alabama is the highest-ranked SEC champ, and Florida State was the highest-ranked ACC champ. So that's your 1 through 5 right there. Granted, this would be different this year because Washington is now a Big Ten team. So only one of Michigan or Washington would be a top 4 seed here, if you follow me. I think that's kind of bogus, right? Like, what if Michigan and Washington are both 11-1, and one won the championship and the other one lost it? Like, or you know, I just think it, like, why demote that team? That team automatically goes down to 6 in these rankings because you're not a conference champion. So you automatically get left out in the dark. Anyway, more on that in a bit. But then they had Georgia 6, Ohio State 7, Oregon 8, Missouri 9, Penn State 10, Ole Miss 11, Oklahoma 12. Common sense says you should just take that 1 through 12. That 1 through 12 should be your 12 playoff teams. But these are not the rules that the College Football Playoff Committee is following. No. The ridiculousness here is that number 12 Oklahoma in this scenario would be left out because number 23 ranked Liberty gets in because they're the highest ranked group of 5 champ. Again, this stupidity that we got to reward the best group of 5 team is insane. Like, who agreed to this? Who cares? No one wants to watch Liberty. We saw Liberty get their butts spanked against Oregon in the bowl game. Why do we want to watch Liberty go get their butt kicked at Georgia? Like, it's just. So look, it's not perfect, but Pro Football Focus, they had put out what the 12-team playoff had looked like last year. So Michigan, Washington, Alabama, and Texas all would have had a first-round bye. They all would have not played that first weekend, and then we would have had 8 versus 9. So Missouri would have been at Oregon. 10 versus 7 would have been Penn State at Ohio State. 12 versus 5 would have been Liberty at Florida State, and then 11 at 6 would have been Ole Miss at Georgia, a rematch of a game we saw last season. But nonetheless, those all seem like cool matchups. But the SEC, you only get one team in the top 4, or top 5 really, because you're going conference champions. And so then you're fighting for more of those spots in the 7 at-large spots. And in this scenario, Missouri, Georgia, and Ole Miss would have all been in last year. So the SEC would have had 4 teams in the playoff. It just will be interesting how this changes moving forward. In fact, reading some comments from some fans on social media, some said, hey, get ready for a 10-3 Arizona team that's ranked number 15 to get in as a top 4 seed if they win their Big 12 over, say, a 12-1 number 3 ranked Georgia who maybe loses in the SEC title game. This is where the math doesn't make sense. Like, the whole thing about rewarding conference champs, who cares? Where are you ranked? If you're the number 3 team and you lost to the number 1 team in your conference championship, and you only dropped to 4 or 5, you should be in there. Like, why do you automatically fall behind? Or why does a 3-loss Arizona Big 12 champ automatically rise to the top and get into the top 5? I just don't like it. Somebody else said 7 at-larges isn't enough. If Notre Dame takes one of those 7, then there's only 6 spots to share. I agree. Notre Dame, piss or get off the pod. I mean, like, either you're going to join the ACC and you can play by their rules, or don't. And you don't automatically get an invite to the table if you're really good, Notre Dame. Some people I was reading saying if Notre Dame just goes 10-2, they should get in the playoff. Well, who'd they play? I'd like to know what the strength of schedule looks like. But if Notre Dame will join the ACC, hey, if you win the ACC, you get in as a top 4 seed. Somebody did bring up, though, they said even if Notre Dame is the number 1 ranked team in the country, they would get the number 5 seed because they'd be the highest ranked at-large team. They're not a conference champ. That would require them to win 4 straight games to win a title. That's a Notre Dame problem. Join the ACC. Somebody else said, I stand by the notion that no conference will ever be deserving of more than 3 teams in the playoff. If you're not good enough to be one of the 3 best teams from your league, you should not have the opportunity to compete for a national title. I disagree. Ole Miss lost 2 games last year. They lost to Bama and Georgia. Ole Miss was the 11th, they would have been the 11th seed last year. They were the 4th SEC team in this bracket. You're going to tell me Ole Miss didn't deserve to get in? And again, Ole Miss was fantastic last year. They beat the heck out of Penn State in the Chick-fil-A Bowl. So, look, it's going to take some getting used to with the new teams and new conferences as well. I mean, Texas could be a top 4 seed as an SEC champion. Oregon could be a top 4 seed as a Big Ten champ next year. Utah could be a top 4 seed as the Big 12 champ. So there's just going to be a lot of getting used to here. One other disclaimer here. Why did they say top 5 highest ranked conference champions? Why don't they just say Power 5? Why don't they just say, ACC, SEC, and all that? This is from Heather Dinich at ESPN. She said, in most years, the 5+7 format will assure the conference champs from the SEC, Big 10, Big 12, and ACC all have a spot in the playoff, along with the highest ranked group of 5 conference champion. So like, whoever wins the AAC, or if you have an undefeated Conference USA champ, something like that. But she said the CFP intentionally will not refer to the group of 5 in their description of the format because there's a chance a champion from one of the Power 4 conferences finishes ranked below the top champion from, say, the AAC, Mountain West, Sun Belt, et cetera, et cetera. And by example, she said in 2021, Cincinnati was ranked number 4 in the country. They were undefeated. They were the AAC champ. The ACC champion Pitt finished at number 12 with 2 losses. In this scenario, you're not just going to boost 2-loss Pitt over undefeated Cincinnati. So in the 12-team format, the 4 highest ranked conference champions will receive a first-round bye. So that makes sense to me. I get what she's saying there. Again, I think we're overcomplicating all this. I think it should just be, that graphic I showed you. When we finished the season last year, the College Football Playoff Committee ranked their top 25 teams, said these are our final rankings. I just look at 1 through 12 there and say that should be our 1 through 12. Stop with the crap of having to reward conference champions. Who cares? When we do the March Madness, when we do the bracket, granted, if you win your conference championship, you get an automatic bid, but this is a field of 68. But also they don't say like, hey, were you undefeated in your regular season? Like they're not rewarding, teams that were, that won their conference champion. Like you don't automatically get a 1 seed in the college basketball tournament because you won your conference, right? Like let's say Chris Beard and Ole Miss get hot in the SEC tournament this year and win it in basketball. Ole Miss gets a stamp to the tournament, but you don't automatically move up to a top 4 seed. And that's what's silly here is you're basically saying just because you win your conference means you get an automatic top 4 seed. Well, who's to say, like, if you're a 3-loss conference champion, or let's say you have 3 3-loss conference champions, like one of those teams is going to have to be a top 5 seed, right? Because your rule says the 5 highest ranked conference champs. So anyway, it's not a perfect science here. A few other notes. Today is going to be a big day in the history of the college football playoffs. So the 11 members of the management committee are going to be hashing out the structure of how the college football playoff is going to look for the next decade. Greg Sankey has claimed that the SEC alone could stage its own playoff if deemed necessary. So again, they've teamed up with the Big Ten, and they're kind of like, we're going to hear you guys out, but keep in mind, we could be 1 foot out the door and doing our own thing here. Up for discussion will be the total number of teams. We told you that the Big Ten kind of likes the idea of going to 16 instead of 12. And according to sources have told the CBS Sports, they wouldn't be surprised if the SEC and Big Ten demand and propose to receive multiple guaranteed playoff spots annually. I love it. I think the SEC absolutely should do it. They should say, hey, we're the more dominant conference. We have the most money. We have the best teams. We automatically get guaranteed 3 spots in the playoff every year or something. We'll see. It'll be interesting to see what they're able to come up with. All right. Thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we're going to go around the conference. Got plenty of news to get you caught up with as Georgia announces a date for their spring game. That's coming up in just a second. First, I want to remind you about our friends over at the GameTime app. GameTime, it is fast, it is easy, and is the best way to buy tickets for all your favorite sporting events. And right now, all of our users, you're going to get $20 off your first purchase when you use our code LOCKEDON. They got killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their best price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. It's the only ticketing app that gives you complete peace of mind with your purchase. You could see the view from your seat before you buy. You know exactly what your view is going to look like before you get there. The all-in prices tab, I like that one. Shows you your total up front so you know exactly what your total is going to be, and you know you're getting a great deal before you check out. You can buy tickets in seconds with 2 taps on the app. Take all the guesswork out of buying tickets with GameTime. Again, right now, all GameTime users, You're going to get that $20 off your first purchase with the code Locked On. Terms apply. Just download the GameTime app. Use that code Locked On, LOCKEDON. Get $20 off. Download GameTime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Along here, Locked On SEC. Thank you guys for making us your first listen every day. Shout out to our everydayers. Keep coming back, checking us out, man. For being the offseason, there's no shortage of topics going on around college football and the SEC. Speaking of the SEC, we got plenty of news to get into, so let's do it. Let's jump into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Intercepted. Makes the handoff. Throws in front of the ball. What a catch.
Around the conference.
And we start over Georgia as the Bulldogs have finalized their plan for their 2024 spring game. The Bulldogs will hold their G-Day game on Saturday, April 13th. Georgia expected to begin spring practice coming up in the next couple of weeks. They will have 14 practices, with the 15th one concluding with the spring game. And we'll get to see what the Georgia Bulldogs look like. Signed the number one recruiting class. They bring back a ton. Of course, some of the recruits in this class: 5-star corner Ellis Robinson, 5-star safety KJ Bolden, 5-star linebacker Justin Williams. I mean, they are just loaded with talent. It's going to be fun to see those guys, along with some new pieces like Florida transfer running back Trevor Etienne, Miami wide receiver Colby Young, Jake Pope, the safety from Alabama. They got a lot of pieces transferred in over there at Georgia. So we'll be interested to see them, but mark your calendar if you're a Bulldogs fan. Saturday, April 13th, that's when we will see Georgia in their spring game. Other news around the conference: Nick Saban speaking with the media this week. Of course, when he retired a couple weeks ago, revealed he was moving to an office in Bryant-Denny Stadium. Greg Burns said at the time Saban would be an advisor to the athletic department. Kalen DeBoer said at his intro presser that Saban would have 100% access to the team. Well, Nick Saban, talking with the media this week, he was asked how much he plans to be involved with Alabama football. He said, look, I really haven't been around. I really try to stay at arm's length. I don't want anybody to think I'm looking over their shoulder. I think Kalen DeBoer's hired a good staff, and I think he's a good man. I think he's a good coach. I think he'll do a really good job. Saban did say the coaches are welcome to reach out to him at any time. He said, look, that's our home. That's our family. It's our community. We're going to continue to do things to continue to help the community every way we can. Coaches all know I'm available if they need me in any way, shape, or form to help them. Lastly, Saban said, I talk to Kalen every now and then. I talk to his DC, Kane Womack, every now and then. He's going to come over and meet me this week sometime. We're around. We're there to support the players, help them in any way we can to help them be successful. Of course, Nick Saban will make his debut on College Game Day next season, and also will be joining the ESPN crew for the NFL draft coming up here in a couple of weeks. All right, some other Alabama notes. Bama adding a transfer safety from the portal this week. The NIL collector shared Monday evening that Michigan safety transfer Keon Sabb is joining the Crimson Tide. Sabb is a very good player there in Michigan. Will have 3 seasons of eligibility remaining. Played in 14 games this past year. Made 5 starts at safety in the Rose Bowl. Recorded a solo stop in their overtime win over Alabama. Had a career game in the national championship. Had career highs of 6 tackles and 2 pass breakups in Michigan's win versus, ironically, Kalen DeBoer. Sabb leaves Ann Arbor with 28 total tackles over 18 games in his career. Was a 4-star prospect, number 94 player overall in his recruiting class. So really good player, and not going to say he's going to completely replace Caleb Downs, because Caleb Downs is a big loss, but this should be a good player. Step right in and play immediately at safety for Alabama. So a nice pickup there. Alabama also officially announced Nick Sheridan and Jamarcus Shepard as co-offensive coordinators. They both previously worked for Kalen DeBoer at Washington. They were named co-OCs after Ryan Grubb came to Tuscaloosa but left after just a couple weeks ago, be the OC for the Seattle Seahawks. Sheridan will have the title of OC and quarterbacks coach. Shepard will be co-OC, assistant head coach, and wide receivers coach. Kalen DeBoer saying in a statement, Nick and Jamarcus are both fantastic coaches. We're excited to have them at Alabama. They have experience in our offense. They know what we're trying to accomplish on that side of the football. They bring passion and enthusiasm to their work. and they've proven to be excellent teachers and recruiters. Look, it's not to say these guys can't be good. It's just a little underwhelming, right? Like, Alabama has had their fair share of big name OCs in recent years. Ever since Lane Kiffin, they've had Steve Sarkisian, Tommy Rees. I get it, wasn't as excited. Bill O'Brien, when they got him at the time, was a big name. But Ryan Grubb seemed like a home run hire. Felt like that was going to be the one. And so we'll see what Nick Sheridan and Jamarcus Shepard are able to do there. Just saying, it's for Alabama standards, it feels a little bit like, is this the best we could do? Kalen DeBoer's staff is finally in place there, and he joined McElroy and Kublik on Jocks FM on Tuesday and talked about his team. He explained how his system has been built and developed over the years, and system has seen many coaches involved over time, he said. So Kalen DeBoer talking about his guys. He said, look at the guys we brought into the staff. He said Sheridan and Shepard, guys that have been with me the last 2 years. Nick being with me back in 2019, ran the offense then after I left Indiana. So he's been a part of this offense for 5 years. These guys are just gifted football coaches, amazing people, and we're going to keep that same system. He did say that the flexibility in the offense allows him to tailor it to the personnel available. He said every year it's a little bit different based on your personnel. It's different at every place. Look, a lot of people are wondering about, he had Michael Penix. Jalen Milrose got more running ability. Are you going to tailor a offense around the dual threat guy as opposed to drop back passer, which is what Michael Penix was. So time's going to tell. We'll find out. But I always say, even the best coaches, you tailor your system to fit the talent you have. You don't just say, hey, this is my playbook, learn it. This is what we're running. Change it up. You gotta suit that guy's needs. I always remember my buddy who covered the Tennessee Titans talked about, when they had Vince Young, they told him, here's the playbook. You're running our playbook. Hey, how about you adjust the system to fit Vince Young's skill set so that he can have more success? But I digress. All right, that is the latest going on around the conference. Got a few other tidbits here when we come back. Some NFL draft news related to the SEC. Still more to come here on Locked On SEC, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. And we tell you all the time about our friends over at FanDuel. Go get your buckets on with your first bet at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers get, that's right, $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your first bet wins. If you've never signed up with them before, you need to go check them out. FanDuel.com/lockedon is the website you want to go to. Why do you want to go there? That is what's going to get you that $150 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go sign up. Go shoot your shot, get started today, and then you can download the app and sign up there. And every morning you can pull up that FanDuel app and check out all the great stuff they've got, all the great NBA action with the second half of the season getting underway now. Quick bets, live same-game parlays, exclusive props. They are FanDuel. They are the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Go check them out. All right, we're along here, Locked On SEC. Got a few more tidbits to get to before we call it a show, so let's dive back into it. And we will start with the always entertaining Paul Finebaum. He had some notes this week. Of course, he joins Greg McElroy and Cole Kublik weekly on their show. And on his Tuesday appearance there at Jocks FM in Birmingham, Finebaum was asked which SEC teams have an expectation of making the new playoff format this fall. And Finebaum said, look, you start with Kirby Smart and Georgia. So he said, let's move Georgia off the table. That's no surprise. Consider the Bulldogs were, one win away basically of playing for a three-peat of a national championship. So we're going to assume Georgia is in the mix. But Finebaum then said Texas is right behind Georgia. Said he really likes Alabama, depending on circumstances. He said that belief in the Tide could change, but he said as of today, he thinks Alabama's in. So behind Georgia, Texas, and Alabama, Finebaum said Ole Miss, Missouri, and LSU are all potential competitors. He said this year should be Lane Kiffin's defining season. He said if you have Georgia and Texas, I think Alabama and Ole Miss, you're splitting hairs. Who's winning those games? So should be interesting there. Finebaum went on to talk about some fans being unhappy with Kalen DeBoer and the staff he's put together. He said after losing Ryan Grubb and Scott Huff, he's put together an interesting collection of individuals. Said he's heard some groans relative to the staff he's assembled, but he said they may be missing the mark. He said, I think it's a really interesting collection of people. It's his staff. He's got to find the right chemistry there. Did he receive a big blow when he lost two of his coaches? Yeah, no getting around that, but I think it's very difficult to look at the individuals without looking at the whole body. This is not an individual deal here. It's a collective amalgamation, good word, of a bunch of different people. But when it comes to the SEC and winning in the SEC, Finebaum said it really comes down to really the most important thing. How does the staff work together? And equally important in the SEC, how is he going to be able to recruit? It's too early to tell on that front. But Finebaum did say he's really watching to see how the new offense works with Jalen Milroe. Can Milroe take that next step in his development as a quarterback? He very well could. If he does, Alabama's going to have great success immediately. And lastly, Daniel Jeremiah over at NFL.com, he put up his 2024 NFL mock draft. This is 2.0. He released this week and got a lot of quarterbacks flying off the board, but 4 quarterbacks go in the top 8 picks. But in terms of the SEC, here's who Daniel Jeremiah's got going. He's got Malik Neighbors from LSU, wide receiver, going 4th overall to the Arizona Cardinals. Remember, they're sticking with Kyler Murray, so they need more weapons for him. He's got Jaden Daniels falling to 6 to the New York Giants. Interesting. They gave a lot of money to Daniel Jones not too long ago, so that would be an interesting fit. He's got Dallas Turner from Alabama going 11th overall to the Minnesota Vikings. He's got Terrion Arnold, the DB from Alabama, going 13th. He's got J.C. Latham, the tackle from Alabama, going 14th overall. Brock Bowers, yes, sliding all the way down to 18th to the Bengals. I'm sure Joe Burrow would like that. But that's interesting. Although a lot of the early mock drafts we've seen, Brock Bowers going anywhere in the top 10, even a few mock drafts had him going 5th overall. So it's a little bit of a slide here for Brock Bowers. He's got Ennis Rakestraw, the Mizzou DB, who's really climbed up a lot of draft boards. Got him going 22nd. Brian Thomas Jr., the other LSU wide receiver, has got him going 23rd overall. Darius Robinson, the edge from Mizzou, who we had on the show last week, got him going 27th, getting into the back end of that first round. And then sneaking into the back end of the first round, 30th overall, Marius Mims, tackle from Georgia. So by my count, that is, 10 SEC players he thinks will go in the first round, projected by Daniel Jeremiah. So that's a good group. And, gosh, half of it is over half is LSU and Alabama players. But will be interesting to see, how this draft plays out. It's only still, mid-late February, so we got plenty of time before we get to the very end of April with the NFL draft. But as you guys know, I'm a big NFL draft fan, so always fun to watch the SEC talent and see where they go. And kind of interesting. I've seen some mock drafts that have Jaden Daniels going as high as number 2 or number 3. Kind of understood Caleb Williams projected as the number 1 pick to Chicago right now, but whether it's Washington, whether it's New England, whether it's Atlanta trading up or another team that needs a quarterback, Jaden Daniels very well could go 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 somewhere in that mix. The reigning Heisman Trophy winner, and what a great accomplishment that would be for him, and really for LSU's last 2 Heisman Trophy winners: Joe Burrow, at number 1 overall, doing his thing in the NFL, and Jaden Daniels, most recent Heisman winner, and a chance to go potentially top 5 and be a franchise quarterback for somebody. So it'll be fun to see how that plays out. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to our tomorrow on the show. Come on back. We'll have more of the latest news going on around the conference. Hey, for your second listen, check out Locked On as long as the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Just search Locked On Sports Today. All the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Locked On Sports Today. I'm Chris Gordy. This has been Locked On SEC. You guys have a great day, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.